Welcome. Thank you.
Yo, thank you.
Oh my God.
Hey, everybody. You guys are comfortable. It's great.
For a creator to get their own imprint, it's like an athlete getting their own Nike shoe.
Oh yeah.
But like even more so. Like
It's very exciting. Yeah.
how did this happen?
It happened really organically, and it wasn't this kind of thing where I was like, oh, I want to go in and like build some sort of mini empire or anything. It was just that there was a lot of cool ideas. So it all stemmed out of Doom Patrol and the desire to write Doom Patrol, which had been, you know, my lifelong dream, really. You know, between making music and writing Doom Patrol, that was pretty much what I had on the list. So, you know, Shelley Bond, who's an amazing editor, helped me build the imprint, and we had been talking for years since Umbrella Academy came out, and she was a fan of my writing, and she kept trying to get me into Vertigo, and it never really worked out because of scheduling. There was a couple of false starts with Doom Patrol. We almost did it a couple times, and then I had met with Dan and Jim in South America. We were doing a convention together, and we started talking about working together, and they said, what do you really want to do? I said, Doom Patrol. And we kept talking, and there started to be more ideas, like, well, where was Doom Patrol going to live? Like, what imprint was going to live on? It felt like weird to go back to Vertigo because Vertigo had become a great creator-owned thing. And so that's when Jim had suggested an imprint, and then the ideas just started to come out. And then I started to look through characters and go, all right, Kate Carson, that's a character we could do something great with. And I have this character I was going to do for creator-owned, where it was like, this character would be great, instead of in a creator-owned book, to put him in Gotham. And then Shade, the Changing Girl, was a no-brainer. And, you know, I knew that was a character we needed to bring back, to bring in a little bit of that legacy of Vertigo into it.
Yeah. So you mentioned these characters. How do you? There's so many characters in the DC canon. How did you pick these? Did you just like open up a who's who and just toss darts?
Open up a who's who, and then I just see who like jumps out. And there's so many characters that haven't been used in like decades that really did jump out. And I was like, and then immediately I thought, like, well, what's the take on them? What makes it like a young animal character? How can we, you know, mess with this character a little bit?
What were like the qualities in your mind as you were flipping through the, like, trying to looking at old characters that embodied what you wanted to do?
My favorite characters are the ones that are kind of counted out already. Maybe they're kind of B-lister or C-lister characters. I find that you could do the most exciting things with those kinds of characters. When you're dealing with like Batman and Superman, like, those are amazing characters, but there's a degree of which you can't do certain things with them that you can get away with a team like Doom Patrol.
Yeah. And you talked about maybe you had some stops and starts launching a Doom Patrol book. Is that the one that you're going to do with maybe Becky Cloonan?
Well,
right?
It's the interesting thing about that. There were Becky Cloonan. I had just asked her as a friend and hired her to do the pitch because I knew she couldn't do the series, because by then it was after Killjoys, and Becky she had been in high demand for years, but then she was really in high demand. I mean, at that point she was really just doing covers and starting to write, so that didn't make sense, you know. I don't think she would have been able to do the interior. So that imagery you guys see is stuff that I commissioned her to do for it. She helped me out with because she's a buddy.
Yeah. So let's talk about your 4 books.
Sure. 4 monthly books.
That's crazy. So you have Doom Patrol, which you were writing.
I'm writing Doom Patrol, yes. And Nick Darrington is the artist.
Shade the Changing Girl.
Shade the Changing Girl. Lisa Castellucci. Marley Zarconi.
Cave Carson has a cybernetic eye, which is possibly the best title.
I have this theory that coming up with that title is what got me the imprint. Because we were talking about it, and Dan and Jim were really excited about the ideas, and it kept going. And then I just texted Dan one night, and I said, Cave Carson has a cybernetic eye. He's like, I love it. So I think that was the one that made the imprint really happen.
And then you have Mother Panic.
Yeah. Tommy Lee Edwards and I created this character, Mother Panic. That was the character that was supposed to be creator-owned. That I was like, no, just put this character in Gotham. Jody Hauser's writing it, doing an amazing job. John Rivera's writing Cave Carson as a cybernetic guy with me, and Michael Avon Oming is doing the art.
Wow. So you're writing one on your own and then co-writing another.
Yeah, I'm writing one on my own, co-writing another, and I'm also writing Umbrella Academy. So.
And Umbrella.
Yeah. So it really,
Four's not enough.
I'm writing 2.5 books. That's it.
Yeah.
I'm only giving notes and guidance on the other one.
Yeah. So that's what I'm curious. Like, what is it? So what does it mean to have an imprint? Like, what do you?
I do a lot of different things. Like my official title is like curator or consultant, and so I consult with them. And but really, I kind of helped. With Shelley, we formed this kind of branding identity, and Molly and Shelley and I would kind of sit down and have these brainstorming sessions of like, well, what does the imprint mean? What's it feel like? What is it like? And then, we did that, and I actually just lost part of the question in my brain, so I got distracted. So.
Well, just like, what do you do on the...
Oh, yeah, what do I do? Okay, that was the question.
What do you do?
Yeah, like partway through answering, I was like, oh, I forgot the question. So, what I do is like, we have this team and this collaborative group of people, and then I try to lead them kind of through the woods together. We go on this journey, and we like discover comic books and make comic books. And so I'm giving guidance. I do editorial stuff like give notes on scripts, give notes on everything, coloring, lettering, cover, ideas, concepts, and but I let the teams, I have total faith in the teams, and I trust them, and I let them run off and do their vision,
Because it's different, right? Because it's different writing like your book it's your vision, you have all the ideas for it, and these other titles that you're not writing, you still have a vision for it, right?
Yeah.
But it's not you executing it.
It's not me executing it, and also like the visions were, they were helped formed by the other creators. Like I would sit down, like a really good example is like I sat down with Cecil Castellucci when we realized she was the writer. I fell in love with her work, and she's like, all right, what is Shade? And I said, Shade is an alien that steals the madness coat that inhabits the body of a 16-year-old bully in a Midwest town. And that's the hook, that's the story. And then she started to develop. We started to talk back and forth and come up with ideas, and then she just ran with it. And that's the Shade, the changing girl you have today. And the same thing with Mother Panic. It was like, this is the high concept.
So that was the elevator pitch, essentially, for Shade. Can you do what are the pitches for the other books?
Some of them is a little harder, like Doom Patrol is here's the interesting thing. I don't have a pitch for Doom Patrol because I didn't pitch Doom Patrol. It was just one of these things where I was like, hey, I want a Doom Patrol, and they were like, we think that's a great idea. So
then I was like, more known one.
It's more known, and it has a history and a legacy, so you're not like, I didn't need to like sell Doom Patrol so much as like just show them what I meant by the kind of comic I wanted to make. And that was a comic that was, really inspired by things like Love and Rockets, and obviously Grant's work, and Rachel Pollack's work, and the 60s Doom Patrol, and Keith Giffen's, so it all is connected that way. So that one doesn't have like an elevator pitch.
Right.
I think we're just saying the world's strangest heroes return, and because that was what they were called back in the day. Like, I believe there's a trademark or something on that. So they are the world's strangest heroes. And then Mother Panic is a very brash, unapologetic heiress who is addicted to combat surgery and is terrorizing the elite and wealthy of Gotham, and she's one of them. So she's not exactly a hero. That's what's kind of interesting. It's the first mature reader's Batman title, to my knowledge, I think.
Wow.
Yeah, it's the first, not Batman title, Gotham title. So it's a Gotham title where people can use foul language and things like that.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. And then Cabe Carson as a cybernetic guy is an adventure story about a relationship between a father and daughter, and kind of like, reclaiming the past, answering the call to adventure, and they all have a current of being weird and fun at the same time.
Yeah, that's funny you mentioned the father-daughter relationship. The more I kind of hear about these books, the more that theme comes through as a through line.
It's really interesting. Every single lead character in all these books is a daughter of somebody, and it deals with the father-daughter, mother-daughter relationships. Like Mother Panic has a strong mother and father-daughter relationship. Cave is father-daughter. Doom Patrol's father-daughter, and
Was that
what was the last
intentional?
one?
Was that like it was that?
It wasn't intentional. It wasn't intentional at all. Like, Shade. Yeah, Shade has parents, so technically she's a daughter. That's So, what was the question again?
Was it intentional? Like, was it a subconscious just kind of happen, or?
I think it just happened, and I think early on Shelley had started to pick it out. She's like, "Man, there's a lot of daughters. There's a lot of father-daughter stuff happening," and I'm like, "Oh yeah, that's probably because I have a daughter." And then we started to hone in and figure out what was causing that and why. But I don't know. It was just the relationships that seemed to form, and I think a lot of the characters, the lead characters, are women, and I think that has something to do with, parent and daughter, parent and child situation.
Yeah. Do you think you changed as a writer after you had a daughter?
A lot of things changed after I had a daughter, and I learned that over time things are a lot more simple in your life than you realize. They're not so complex. You just need your family to be healthy and happy, and that's generally all that matters, and all the other stuff is like this cool bonus.
Yeah. It's in you. So you mentioned like these female characters, but you also have a lot of female creators on there.
Yeah, that's true. And there's a lot of great women writers that write great male characters. But I wanted a level of authenticity to some of these. And Cecil Castellucci comes from a great young adult background, and it's very kind of intense, her writing, and I knew that would. The kind of story we were telling about a teenage girl was a lot more intense than probably the usual ones, and and Shade the Changing Girl also has an all-women team, which we're really psyched. We got that together. Shelley was a big proponent for that and helped put that together, and then Mother Panic's written by Jody Houser, and I wanted to have that authenticity there, and also she's a very diverse writer, Jody. So she could do a certain kind of speed with Faith, and then she could do this kind of hard-boiled thing with Mother Panic that we needed.
Yeah. Is that important to you to have that type of diversity?
Yeah, it is. And moving forward, it's more important to get even more kinds of diversity in there.
Yeah.
It's just important to keep an eye on, and you just try to include people whenever you can. You don't necessarily make that what always drives the books. You don't start a book from that perspective, but you start with the character, but then you see what's a diverse situation that we can create for the creators to write this character, draw this character, things like that.
Yeah. You mentioned Grant before, Grant Morrison.
Yeah.
That's pretty. What does it mean to you to be able to take on Doom Patrol?
I mean, it's a huge honor in so many ways, and Grant's work is very influential to me and many other people, and very inspirational. And getting to become friends with Grant was one of the biggest surprises of my life. I hadn't realized that was going to happen. I'm such a fan. He's been such an influence on my music and things like that. So to get originally, we became friends first, and then he read my writing and he gave me his endorsement. He was really supportive, and he gives me advice all the time. So it was a trip because I would be at his apartment in LA, and we'd be sitting here, and he's like, "All right, what's your first issue of Doom Patrol?" And I would literally have to stand there and tell him everything.
And what was going through your mind?
I was scared. I was really scared. It was like, oh my God. And that's when I realized, wow, there's a lot of holes in this cheese. I'm missing a lot of stuff. Because he'd be like, what happens next? What happens next? And then I wouldn't have answers. He's like, what's your last page? What's your last image? And I'm like, all right, I gotta come up with a good one. I don't have it yet. So he was a great coach.
And he's appeared in your video.
Yeah, he has appeared in the videos, Yeah, he and his wife and I and my wife, we just all got really close. And then, you look at him, he looks like a supervillain, So I was like, he would make a great supervillain in this world of the Killjoys, and he took to it immediately. He helped design his costume. He was like, I want a frilly cuff, I want a white gun, I want to wear this, I want these type of boots, and he planned it all out.
That's crazy. Did you ever think when you were, because you have a illustration background, but when you were in college, did you ever think that you would be friends with and collaborating with the person whose book you were reading that loved so much?
No, and it's one thing to kind of have confidence in your abilities and faith in yourself and working hard and trying hard, but to have those kind of delusions that stuff is going to happen. I don't know that anybody has those things. You believe in yourself and you believe you're going to succeed and you push through it, but you don't know that those crazy things are going to happen.
Yeah. So his Doom Patrol was a little weird.
It was a little weird, yeah. And you know, the original creators of Doom Patrol had said that his version felt like truest to their original vision.
Is this Doom Patrol going to be weird?
It is weird. It has to be. And I think weird is something that I'm decent at, you know, and it's something I enjoy, you know. Yeah, it is very weird.
Yeah.
You know, and it doesn't start. I don't want to build it up like you're gonna, you know, read the first issue and be like, yeah, it wasn't that weird, but it gets weird.
Just a baseline medium weirdness.
Yeah, it starts. Actually, in the original script, I don't do this anymore, but I would put weirdness levels to say to help the artist understand what the environment was going to be. Because I wanted not only things to just get weird in the comic, but things to change in the environment to show you it was also getting weirder. So I would be like, all right, the scene is this, weirdness level like 2.5. And then we keep going and it'd be like weirdness level 8. And, you know, it would just change.
What was the highest, what was your max weirdness?
I think 11 is the highest weirdness level you can go to.
So these 4 books, they all exist in part of one big universe?
One of the things we got to talk about yesterday, I read an interview, there was early discussions about this. I read an interview with Cecil Castellucci when she was talking about Shade, and she got a question about, are these books are going to cross over? And she, you know, at the time she couldn't answer it. But she and I had been talking about it, and I was like, no, I want there to be some, I would love a crossover event eventually, but I would love to see little things. Like I'm writing an issue of Doom Patrol where they actually show up on the outskirts of the town that Shade is from. So there's little connections. You'll probably see certain products show up. Television commercials.
Yeah.
So they're in, you know, Young Animal's on the fringe of the DC universe, and then within that fringe there's little pockets, and these books exist in those little pockets, but now they're gonna cross to each other when it's the right time.
Yeah. How did you come up with Young Animal? Where did that come from?
It was going to be the name of my second solo album. So when I realized I wasn't going to make a second solo album for the time being, I was like, oh, I'll just use the album title as, it's just the name for my next project, whatever that ends up being. So then when I was doing the imprint, I was like, I'll just call this.
That's funny. Yeah. So speaking of music, you're a musician.
Yes.
Did you have a certain soundtrack that you listened to when you were writing these different books or thinking about them?
I do listen to a lot of music when I work. But the trick that I do, you know, I don't know how many you are writers out there, but I know some people like to work with music, some people don't. What I've found works for me is it helps me start writing. I'll put music on when I start writing, and then usually by the time the album is over, I'm in it. And I don't realize the music has stopped. I don't realize the album's over, and I'm just kind of deep in it. And that goes on until I realize, and then I put some more music on, and it starts over again and again.
What did you listen to help get in the mood for these books?
For Doom Patrol specifically, which is the main one that I was obviously doing the most work for, I was listening to a lot of Black Sabbath, a lot of this band called Sleep. I was listening to them a lot. But then after I got... So there was a lot of kind of like doom metal, and then I went into ambient stuff like really early Tangerine Dream records like Zeit and Atom and Alpha Centauri, and so and then experimental albums that had like a lot of tape loops and things like that and weird random sounds, and that's what it grew into. I just started listening to stuff without vocals.
Have you had people tell you that they listen to your stuff to help get them in the mood to write?
I think I've heard that once or twice, but it's not something I hear super common. One thing I would say, you know, having been in the band, is I couldn't imagine writing anything while listening to that. It's just constantly hitting you in the face with that band. That's kind of what it like really grabs a listener and says, you must listen to me right now.
Yeah.
So it's a pretty aggressive music, so I don't think I could write to it.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously I couldn't, because actually, well, sometimes I write to I put my solo record on. Yeah. Really psyched on it.
Yeah. So you mentioned Umbrella Academy, which is a fantastic series.
Thank you.
Fantastic series that you guys should all check out if you haven't already. those are your own characters.
Yes.
You own them.
Gabrielle
you created them.
Yeah.
From scratch.
Yeah.
Young Animals are DC characters.
Yeah. Yeah, it's all DC characters, yeah.
How does that change your process?
Well, it means that there is a level of approvals that things need to go through, that we have plenty of time to do them because we make these things months in advance. So, you know, like, I don't own these characters, so I have to be really respectful. Even the character that Tommy Lee and I created together, we don't technically own that character anymore, so with that character we have to be respectful of Gotham.
Yeah.
You know, she's a work in progress. She's a blank slate right now. Like, Jodie's really filling her in. So we, at that point, I don't know that there's many approvals that need to happen with Mother Panic, the character. But with the other ones, you know, obviously I need to run stuff by people and like, this is what I'm doing and things like that. So, you know, so that's how I deal with that stuff.
Yeah. The other big difference between Umbrella Academy and this is that these are ongoing titles.
Yeah, yeah.
That's got to be the biggest shift.
That is the biggest shift, and you know, to give you an example with Umbrella Academy, that stuff gets written really far in advance, like sometimes a year and a half, 2 years. Well, in the case of Hotel Oblivion, I'd been writing that for a really long time, so that is obviously, I'm writing issue 3 right now, but that's planned out all the way to issue 7, so I already know what's going to happen in that. And the difference is, there's less surprises when I'm writing Umbrella Academy than Doom Patrol, because I don't have that much of Doom Patrol planned. And I think to me, that's the point of making monthly comics, is you're constantly painting yourself into a corner and then trying to figure a way out of it.
Yeah. That's interesting. Like, so how far in advance for Doom Patrol are you writing books?
I know what's happening in the next issue when I'm writing the current issue. So I'll know what's happening right after that, and I have a pretty good idea of what's happening at the end of that series, and I have an end game for when, you know, I get fired. I have an end game for that. So I basically have a beginning and an end.
Yeah.
And the middle is the part where I discover it.
That sounds terrifying.
It is terrifying. It's super cool at the same. It's mega rewarding, you know.
Do you feel like you've grown as a writer since Umbrella Academy?
Yeah, I know, and I changed a lot too. Well, you know, they're so different. Like, writing Umbrella, the dialogue is intentionally pretty stiff. Everything is super dry, you know. And Doom is a little different. I think Umbrella Academy is like drinking wine, and Doom Patrol is like drinking beer, you know. So then they need to be very different. They feel different in that way.
Yeah. Are there other, not that you have more time to write more books, but is there any other character that you would just love to write?
You know, it's always been Doom Patrol, so now that I'm getting to write that, like, there's no other characters that, it'd have to be the right fit, and I don't know who's the right fit after Doom Patrol, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you want to quickly tell us who's the cast of Doom Patrol?
Well, I could tell you most of it. I could tell you some of it.
You could just whisper the rest of it.
Casey Brank, Sam Reynolds. Those are new characters. They're EMTs. Robot Man Cliff Steele, obviously, has to be in there. He's been in every incarnation of the Doom Patrol, while everybody else is pretty much rotated out.
Yeah.
Negative Man. Crazy Jane's going to be showing up. A new character named Lucius Reynolds, who's the son of Sam Reynolds, is going to be showing up. Trying to think. Oh, Flex Mentallo. Mm-hmm. You know, that was cool to be able to really put him on the team again. And those are the ones that I can kind of talk about now. There's other characters from, like, you know, I've been referring to as legacy characters that I want to show up. You know, some characters that I've been talking to Rachel Pollack about, because I like to ask the person that created them what they think about me using them, you know.
Have you gotten a good response so far?
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
Well, Doom Patrol is out when?
September 14th, right? Yeah.
Mid-September?
Mid-September. Then Shade the Changing Girl and Cave Carson come out in October. Mother Panic's November.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Gerard.
Thanks for having me. Thank you guys for listening. You guys are awesome. Have a great day and convention and all that stuff.
Thanks, guys.